All the best.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to discuss about audit in a special and automated environment. Okay, now what is something different about auditing in an automated environment? What are these special aspects, okay, of auditing and in an automated and environment? What things we need to take care about, and how it is different from other audits? So that is very important, and we need to understand that. Okay. What I'll suggest is during the lecture, if you have any doubts, please ask freely. That will be really helpful for you guys also to understand the topic. Okay. So first of all, let us understand what is auditing in an automated environment. Okay. What we mean by that actually? So when I talk about auditing in an automated environment, it's I'll explain you with a term, the automated environment, and then we'll take it forward. Okay. Now there are two important things over here in this particular sentence. That's the one, it's an automated, and second is an environment. When I first talk about automated, okay, the term automated is something that refers to, okay, automatic processing of data, basically. Automatic processing of data. Okay, these are systems like ERP, business applications, okay, and other applications which helps in processing the data. So that's why together they are known as an automated systems. Now when you bring multiple automated systems together, so that these systems processes, okay, out of these systems processes are generated, or you can say with the help of these systems you build up a process, and there are people around the process. So there are three elements: technology, that is the systems I'm talking about; processes driven by technology; and people which are assisting in the processes that are driven by technology. So when you have all these three things, it becomes an environment. Okay. Now over here, automated processing environment means, when I talk about automated can be either into the technology, either into the embedded, can be embedded into the process. Okay. So either through technology you can create an automation, or either there is a process which achieves the level of automation. So when you are auditing these automated environments, so you are auditing the technology, how the processes are structured around the technology, and how people are part of this environment. So how people are assisting in technologically driven processes. I hope I'm clear. Okay. Now, as I told you, like, it's more about the technology, processes, and people. So in nutshell, an automated environment is an ecosystem that again combines my people, processes, and technology within the overall business environment. So if I talk about a business environment, it will be technology, process, and people. Now there can be multiple type of technology that is used. You can say packaged softwares, ERPs, customized ERPs, business applications, process related applications. There can be X number of things, but there are multiple layers which are there for a particular technology infrastructure. So today, if I talk about a technology infrastructure, what technology is made up of? Let's say the first thing of the automated environment, technology. What things are there in technology? We like what are the parts of the technology? We need to understand that. So let me tell you about a structure. Structure and the components of environment. Now, let's say, for example, I'm talking about this technology over here. This technology, this process, and people, how they are structured, which comes first, which comes second. How do you identify what is the structure over there? What are the detailed components of technology, processes? So I'll show you that. When I talk about detailed components, so there are 4 layers basically. There are 4 layers in a particular structure. Okay. Just a minute. The first layer is your business application. So first layer is business application. That is the front end thing. So in any of the technology, there are 2 things: front end and back end. Front end is something with which you interact. Let's say, for example, you are on a particular software. Many of you might have seen Tally. Okay, so the front end of the Tally ERP, okay, where you see the colorful screens, you see the menu. It's a front end. It's a business application. But behind that, okay, behind that there is a folder, data folder. Now that data folder is nothing but the database system, and it's a second layer. Okay, that's the particular second layer that you see. The data folder which you save somewhere, or which you transfer, or you take backups. Okay, so business application uses their data layer to save the data. Now, in case of Tally ERP, it saves their data into the data folder. That's the second layer. Third layer is the operating system, which helps us to run your particular ERP. Now, in your case, it can be Windows, whatever version it is. It can be Mac, it can be Linux, whatever operating system you are using. Okay, so that operating system is something that will help the business application and database to run appropriately. The last one is the hard drive storages, hardwares, network drives, and all those stuff. Okay, that's the fourth layer. And why fourth layer? Because the data storage device, hardware, which may include storage device, network device, other hardware components, these are the physical components of your automated environment, or which supports your operating system. Let's say, for example, today, if there is no hard disk on my computer, although there is an operating system, database, everything, it will not work. Although, let's say, for example, if I don't have a monitor, it will work, but it will be of no use. So again, these hardware components helps us, and it's the last and the basic layer for an automated environment to work appropriately. Clear? Any doubt till now? Any doubt? See, these layers, okay, these layers decide, or these layers help us help a particular environment to work appropriately. If any of the item from this layer is missing, your environment is not complete. Any doubt? Okay. Now that we saw an environment, this is an environment. Let us understand a concept of real-time environment. Now this I saw a component of structure and component of an environment, and we are coming from automated environment. Now at times you will see there is an automated real-time environment. Okay, and I tell you how it works. Now I'm talking about a real-time environment and its components. And this particular thing was also asked in May 2020, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Okay, for 5 marks. Basically, the question was, you need, in question you were supposed to explain the real-time environment. Okay, what is the real-time environment, and what are the components of a real-time environment? Okay, can anyone give me an example of a real-time environment? Anyone? What is a real-time environment? Look around your daily lives and tell me one real-time what you can say practical example of a real-time environment. Pretty easy. Absolutely correct, Kaushiki. Correct, Kaushiki. Okay, good, Sumit. Absolutely correct, Rashmi. Correct, Kaushiki. Online gaming, perfect example. I'll tell you and how it works. Let's say I'm playing a particular game. Okay. So me and my friends, are playing a Ludo game. Okay, simple. A Ludo game. Now, how it is an automated or real-time environment, I'll tell you. Now, when I was playing the game, I was playing on my mobile. Okay. I was playing on my mobile. The moment I used to touch a particular area, or let's say roll a dice, okay, what used to happen is from my mobile, the data will go through servers, okay, or before server there will be something. I'm not going into much of IT thing, but I'll just to explain you guys. The data will first go to the CDN. From CDN it will go to the server. Server can be game server. Now the game server will analyze the data, what it requires. Then based on that, it will again give the data to the CDN, and CDN will reach out to my mobile, and my mobile will show, okay, that person has moved there. That person rolled the dice. This was the number, and he has moved this much position ahead. Okay. So I let's say for example, I rolled the dice. I moved 6 steps ahead. That 6 steps will go to the server. Same way, on the other hand, there will be some other mobile of my friend. He will be, contacting through CDN, and again the server will providing him data. Server then, also provide me his data, okay, my friend's data to me, and it will display accordingly. That is a real time, happening on a real time basis. Okay. Now, when this happens on a real time basis, this particular CDN, or you can say CDN plus the way through the data is reached to the game server. Okay, those are hardwares. Those are known as hardware. Or this particular mobile is also a hardware, a piece of device, hardware. Then you can say CDN can also be counted in network. Then comes middleware, servers, and then it is the final, your application, which is processing the data. Okay. So I can identify, multiple things here. I can say here middlewares are sitting. What I have identified till now, the components of a real-time environment. I have an application, I have a hardware, I have networks, I have middlewares. Even in my mobile, whatever it is playing, it's also an application. The device itself is in hardware. CDN, again, it's a part of a network. Game server, again, it's an application and server. There will be multiple middlewares between the game server and the mobile application. Okay. So accordingly, if I summarize, so the components will be of an automated environment. If I talk about the components of an automated environment, application, middleware, networks, and the last one is hardware. And application can be my business application, game, or whatever application it is, either on the business side or either on my side, perfectly fine. Middlewares are like, web servers or CDNs. Networks, again, your local area network, wide area network, or whatever it is, internet. And then it comes the hardware. Hardware is something, a storage device, then your mobile itself in the current example. Okay. Other things, backup devices. So there can be multiple things, okay, which can fall under the category of hardware. So these are certain things which makes a real-time environment. I hope I'm clear. Even with network, the network we call about, is not possible. The network is not at all possible without the hardware. I'm not sure, just for your information, how many of you have heard about submarine cables? How many of you have heard about the submarine cables? I'll show you. This is a particular map of a submarine cables, and this is the lines you are seeing are the cables between countries which transfers the data, or you can say internet, in the sea. So today, if I want to send the data to, let's say, US, it will go through one of these cables. It's not something into the air, it's inside the water. And these cables again form parts of your network and hardware both. Okay. So same way, as I told you, like, and there are multiple things in middle. It's not just like, okay, there's a one thing, you click it and there is another side, it will give you data. No, where to send the data, which cable to use, which is the correct, way, which is the fastest way. There are a lot of many things in that. And those together are known as a middleware. For example, currently I am here in India. I am wanting data from this particular United States, this place. So first of all, there will be LAN cables, which will bring the data to the nearest route over here. From here, it will pick some one good cable, which is the fastest one, and either through this and this and this, like this way, or through this and then the LAN route, whatever it will be the appropriate, I will get the data. So to take the which route, to take which particular cable, what is the fastest way, everything is a middleware. This is a real image. This is a real data. Okay. So again, those all elements are my middleware. Understood? One more thing I just want to highlight over here is, in an automated environment, when I talk about applications again are divided into two parts. Applications can be your front end also, can be your back end also. Okay, there are two type of applications: front end, back end. Clear? Any doubt? Okay, good. So that was one of the question which was there in May 2020, if I'm not wrong. Which are the components of the real-time environment? So the components are application, middleware, network, and hardware. Okay. Now comes is, you understood what is an environment, automated environment, but how will you document? How will you, document the automated environment? Okay. How will you document the automated environment? That's a very important question. If today I want to document the automated environment, because audit cannot be done without documentation, that is for sure. Then how will you document an automated environment? Okay, first of all, understanding the entity and its environment. Name the assay number basically, which is the standards on auditing talk about understanding the entity. Which is that standard talks about understanding the entity. Come on, guys, pretty easy. Which standards talks about understanding the entity? Absolutely correct, Boni. Yes, Kaushiki. Which is the standard which talks about, understanding the entity. Come on. You can even either say from that name, the title of the standard itself. Pretty easy. Yes, Boni. Correct, Shalendra. It's SA 315, understanding the entity and its environment. So SA 315 talks about understanding the entity. Okay. Now, if you see in the SA 315, okay, when we will be also discussing in the lectures. SA 315 talks about, first of all, identification and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. So it focuses on two things. It focuses upon the identification and assessing the risk also in an environment. Also, it talks about understanding the environment. Okay. So SA 315 describes, okay, how you need to understand the environment, and that includes understanding of automated environment also. So when you are understanding an automated environment, SA 315 will guide you that what you need to do. Okay, let's say for example, when in your particular business process, okay, if you say, let's say for example, now there is a business process, okay, there is a highly automated transactions, highly automated processing with little or no manual intervention, then what you need to do? Then again, there are separate risks which can be identified in that particular thing. So generally, it also guides us, with respect to the characteristics of a manual and automated elements in an internal control relevant to the auditor's assessment. Okay. Then it also, helps us to understand the automated elements in, with respect to the complexity of the IT systems and use of IT with an entity. So there are a lot many things which in SA 315 it's there, and it helps us to understand the automated environment basically. Then once you understand the automated environment, okay, once you understand the company's IT system, so what you understand is you understand which applications you are using. So understanding means you understand which applications company is using. Okay. Then you understand the details of IT infrastructure components. Okay, of each application. So when I talk about each application means an IT infrastructure component means, see over here. When we talked about a structure and components of an environment, this is applicable to your application also. Which business application it is, what is the front end, what is the database it is using, what are the operating system it is using, what is the data storage and hardware device it is using, the 4 layers. Okay, So it will understand the 4 layers of that particular application. Then it will understand the organization structure. Okay, so you need to understand the organizational structure and the governance structure. Then you need to understand the policies, procedures, and processes. Okay. Now tell me one thing. There is one point left in this, but tell me one thing. How understanding the organizational structure and governance will help you to understand the automated environment? How an automated, organization structure will help you to understand the automated environment? How governance structure will help you to understand the automated environment? Very important point. Very important. Correct, Boni. Good, Shailendra. Okay, Kaushiki. Okay, I'll tell you. Now, when we talked about 4 layers or the components, okay, who is the owner or who has access to which component? I have access to business application. Do I have access to database? Do I have access to operating system? Do I have access to the hardwares? If I have access to the all 4, I can do whatever I want with this system. I can change anything. So organizational structure helps you to understand which user, which person has how much access and what is the role of each individual. Okay, I am only responsible for operating system. Anything wrong with operating system, you can contact me. I'm only good with the network device. I'm good with the hardware device. So I'm a hardware guy. Okay. Somewhere might be, okay, he's a chief IT officer. So he looks after whole IT system, whole IT environment in an organization. So the organizational structure and the governance helps you to understand the roles and responsibility of the people and helps you to understand who is responsible for what. A person can be responsible for only hardware. A person can be responsible for the business application. A person can only be responsible for, networks. But on the same side, chief IT officer, chief technology officer, they will be responsible for everything. So that is very important to understand what is the organizational structure, how many people are there, who is looking what. Okay, then only you can understand an automated environment. And as I told you, in automated environment, it's not only the automation or the processes or the system, it's technology, process, and people. And when I talk about people element, this is the people element over here. This is the process element over here. And when I talk about the first element, that is technology. Remember, in start I told you, technology, process, and people. That's the automated environment. And when I talk about technology, this is technology. So till the time I do not understand technology, people, and process, how will I understand my automated environment? Simple. The last point with respect to understanding an automated environment is based on all these things. Okay, based on all these things, I need to understand IT risk and controls. I need to understand what is the IT risk and IT controls in an automated environment. Clear? Any doubt till now? Are you understanding this particular topic? See, why we are discussing understanding and documenting is reason because when you go for an audit, when you go for an audit in an automated environment, first of all, you need to understand. Then only you can decide, okay, what is the risk, what is the procedures you need to follow, and how you need to audit. So the first step of audit is understanding the business environment, automated environment. That's we are trying to learn here. That's we are trying to grasp here. Okay, this is an automated environment. Let's understand first. Then will be the next step. Okay, risk assessment. Then will be the next step. Response to the assessed risk. Then map procedures, audit procedures, analyzing of the evidence that has been collected, and then conclusion. Okay. So that was something, understanding the automated environment. Now the next steps comes is once you understand the automated environment, you need to document it. You need to document it. Okay, tell me which is the standard which talks about documentation? Which standards talk about the documentation? Which standards talk about the documentation? Correct, Boni. Correct, Kaushiki. Correct, Shailendra. Good. So it is SA 230 audit documentation, and with the help of SA 230, you document whatever understanding you have gathered. Now you might be saying, is there any specific way to document? See, again, there is no specific way, but if you bring all the components together and all this information together, your documentation should be appropriate. Okay. Now, so just to tell you example. Let's say, for example, what I need to understand is which application the company is using. So details of application that the company is using. Okay. Second, what I need to understand the detail of IT infra components of each application. Now, which are the IT infra components we saw here? Okay, business application, database, operating system, and data storage devices. So application is there, then your database, your operating system, your hardware or network, I can say. Okay, your other hardware. Okay, then you can bring a person responsible. In that particular, then you can mention the policies. Okay, around that particular application, which are applicable to that particular application. You can mention, okay, which are the IT risks you have identified. Okay, once you identify the IT risk, you can, like it, okay, the likelihood, the impact of that particular IT risk, to assess whether, overall rating of an IT risk, overall IT risk rating. With an example, I'll explain you. Let's say, for example, I'll talk about an application, let's say invoice processing application. Invoice processing tool. Okay, now which database it is using? I can say, okay, it's using MS SQL. Fine. Which operating system it is using? Operating system, let's say Windows Server. Whatever it is, the latest Windows Server is there. Let's say Windows Server 2022. For those who are not aware, Windows Server 2022 is different than the Windows normal you use. It's a different altogether operating system which helps to run the server. They are specifically designed for the server. Okay. My Windows Server 2022. Next is network. It is for the local area network. Okay, which hardware it is using? The hardware behind the on which the hardware, the Windows Server is working. You can say it's Intel processing, plus it can be, there's a SDD storage. Okay, solid state SSD, sorry, SSD storage with DDR5 RAM, let's say 128 GB, can be. That's the hardware behind it. Person responsible, Mr. X. Mr. X is responsible for this particular application. Policies around it. So there is the IT policy in organization, which is, governing this particular tool, or there is a invoice processing tool SOP, standard operating procedure. Again, okay, any risk identified. So there will be risk number 1, risk 2, risk 3. You will assess its likelihood, let's say low, medium, high. Again, here its impact, low, medium, high. And then overall rating of the risk. So you can say, okay, this is a low risk, this is the medium risk, this is the high risk. And it doesn't stop over here. In front of risk, you identify controls. You check whether it's an automated or manual control, who is responsible for this particular control, and a lot of more details. As in when you progress in an audit, you continue this table. You continue this metrics basically. So this is how you document for a particular IT component. Okay, this is just an example. Any doubts? Any doubt? Okay, SQL is a structured query language. It's in use to create, databases, you can say. Okay, and when I talk about MS SQL, it's a again a bit of uh, different version of SQL developed by Microsoft. Any doubts? Okay, I hope till now it is clear. Like what is how you need to understand the automated environment, how you need to document. And when I talk about understanding and documenting an automated environment, it's again the thing is that this is applying the SA 315 and applying the SA 230 during your understanding and documenting. Okay, if good, then let me take one question. Again, it's asked in the past exam. Beta Hotels operates in an automated environment and uses application software for front desk, guest reservation, restaurant, kitchen orders, billing for which CA Anil has been appointed as an auditor. Kindly guide CA Anil with the various key aspects that need to be considered by him while understanding the automated environment of the company in accordance with 315. Is he required to document the same? If yes, illustrate by giving one example. Same what we discussed just now. It's asking what? That guide a CA Anil with the various aspects, key aspects that needs to be considered by him. Okay, in accordance with 315. Is he required to document the same and give the illustration by giving one example? Don't you think it's the same thing that we just now discussed? It is the same thing. It's the same thing that we just now discussed, and it was asked for 4 marks. See, understanding and documenting in an automated environment. Understanding of the automated environment of the company is required as per SA 315. The auditor understanding of the automated environment should include applications that are being used by a company, details of IT infrastructure components for each application, components like business application, then your operating database, operating system, network, hardware, your storage. Okay, then the organization structure and governance. Remember, people, the policies, procedures, and processes. The process is part of your IT environment. IT risk and controls, and documenting example. See, application used for, for which purpose it is used, database, operating system, network, storage device, same example that we discussed. So that was for the 4 marks which were asked in the exam. Clear? Okay, good. If clear, then one question. At which phase? Now we understood. We need to understand the IT environment. We need to document the IT environment. Okay. At which stage do you need to understand the IT environment? At which stage of the audit you need to understand the IT environment? Or if I rephrase my question, at which phase you need to consider the IT environment? At which phase of the audit you need to consider an IT environment? Simple. Okay, Kaushiki. Which is a phase at which you need to consider your IT environment during audit, and phase of audit I'm talking about. At which phase of audit? Come on, guys. Pretty easy, trust me. Okay, good Shailendra. Good Kaushiki. Absolutely correct, Boni. When I'm required to consider IT during my audit, I got few answers. I got answer from Shailendra, Kaushiki, and Boni. Come on, guys. Okay. So the answer is that I need to consider the IT environment during my audit at every phase. At every phase. Be it your planning, risk assessment, understanding and evaluating the IT environment, testing the operative effectiveness, performing the procedures, reporting, concluding, from planning to completion, including execution, I need to consider at every phase. And I'll tell you how. Okay. So I'll explain each phase. Let's say during risk assessment. So during risk assessment, I need to consider the IT environment to identify the risk arising, identify the risks arising out of or arising from the use of IT systems, okay, that was the first one. Second, during understanding the business process. During understanding the business process, I need to consider IT, okay, so that I need to perform walkthroughs, okay, so that I can get understanding of the business application, okay, business application and its interdependencies. Now, what is interdependency? I'll give you simple one example. Okay, let's say there is an invoice processing tool. The job of this particular tool is to process and validate the purchase invoices. Now, there are two things. For each and every system, there should be input, there should be output. Here, the input should be invoices, purchase invoices. That should be input. And output from this particular system should be, let's say, for example, journal entries or entries. Or you can say posting in ERP. Okay, that should be the output. Now, if I talk about the input over here, so input should be coming from some particular place. Okay, so there is a scanning tool. Which scans the invoice and sends to IPT, invoice processing tool. So scanning tool is the one whose output is used by IPT tool as an input, and ERP is the one which uses the output of IPT into his system and posts the entry. Okay. Now, what if the scanning tool fails? If this particular scanning tool fails, this will also not work, this will also not work. So there is an interdependency of scanning tool, of the IPT tool. IPT tool has a dependency upon the scanning tool. Even IPT has a dependency upon the ERP to process its output. Again, ERP has a dependency upon the IPT and scanning tool, so that ERP can have the entries. Otherwise, ERP will not be having the entries if any of the tool is not working. So this is the interdependency, and that is understand when you perform the walkthrough. Okay, from where the data is coming, where the data is going. Very important. It's just like in connecting flight. You are coming from one flight, you are going to another flight. But for the second flight, the first flight is a dependency. If you do not arrive on time from the first flight, you will miss the second flight. So when you understand the second flight's time and schedule, what you assume, okay, I'll come on time from the first flight. That's independency. Then once you understand the application, what you need to do is you need to understand entity level controls that are related to the IT governance. So ELCs, entity level controls. So you need to identify the ELCs that are related to IT governance. Then you understand IT controls, other IT controls basically. Okay. General IT controls, segregation of duty. Okay. So to understand the other IT controls basically. Then based on this, what you do is during testing phase, what you do during testing phase, you understand, okay, the IT controls, like the IT controls you understood, then you check the operating effective design and operating effectiveness of those controls. Basically you test those controls, okay, and for that you prepare NTE, that is nature, timing and extent of audit procedures. You decide, okay, this is the nature, timing and extent of my audit procedures or of my testing that I'm going to do around this particular IT environment. Not only that, you test the reports generated from IT systems. Generally, they are known as a IPE. Okay. IPE, that is information produced by entity. So we test the IP and reports, IT reports, which are generated to the IT systems and application. Then comes during conclusion. What do you do at the time of conclusion? You evaluate the misstatement. Okay. Identified during the audit. Okay, tell me, which essay helps you to understand evaluation of misstatement identified during audit? Which standards help you to understand the evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit? which is the standard which helps you, or rather guides you, that how to evaluate the misstatement which are identified during the audit? Which is that standard? Come on, guys. Which is that standard that talks about, evaluation of the misstatement identified during audit? Okay, Shailendra. Okay, Kaushiki. Correct, Shailendra. Now this is the correct answer. I'm talking about which standards helps you to understand or helps you to evaluate the misstatement identified during audit. Correct, Kaushiki. Pretty easy. Trust me. You can directly check from the name itself. No, Rahul. You can directly check from the name itself. There is one standard which talks about evaluation of misstatement identified during audit. So the answer is SA 450. Okay. SA 450 talks about evaluation of the misstatement which are identified during the audit. Okay. And how to evaluate that. And you will require the help of SA 450 to understand that how to evaluate the IT misstatement. See, a normal misstatement you can easily, like it will be comparatively easy to, evaluate. Let's say, for example, there is an overstatement of fixed asset. You know the amount. There's an understatement of inventory. You know the amount. Understatement of the liabilities or missing liabilities. You know the amount. You know what is the transaction. I'll tell you one thing. Let's say, for example, late excess termination post exit of employee, or you can say post employee termination. Or I'll give you another example. Person processing payments has access to invoice processing module, or I'll give you one more example. Let's say a particular system or application is working on that particular application is working on what you can say, the underlying operating system, or the underlying database. Okay, his application is working on database which has issue with retrieval of data for past periods. Okay, so these kind of issues you have identified in a particular environment, okay, IT environment, then it's difficult to evaluate the impact of these observations. It's difficult to impact the difficult to evaluate the impact of these misstatements. Okay, it's not easy. How will you decide if there is a late access termination? How will you decide that what is the impact of that? When there is a processing payments, the person has more access than it is required. The application is based on such database that it is not able to retrieve the past data. How do you assess the impact? It's very difficult, trust me. And I've been to that road where we fight for the assessment of the impact or evaluation of that particular misstatement. And at that point in time, SA 450 literally helps you that, okay, how to assess the impact of these particular misstatements. And based on that, your report can go from here and there. If you perform a wrong assessment, of the misstatement or evaluation of the misstatement, what will happen is, today you might think, okay, this is not a major thing, these are the low misstatement, and because of the wrong evaluation, you marked as a low. Okay, so I am actually marked them as a low because of wrong evaluation. And what will its impact will be? Okay, this will go to directly unmodified opinion, or you can say modified opinion but not adverse, qualified opinion but not adverse opinion. What if my correct misstatement or correct evaluation gives me, no, this is not low, this is high, high, high? Then instead of unmodified or qualified, I may issue an adverse also. So your evaluation of the misstatement at a good extent impacts the opinion that you are going to issue, impacts the the position of your opinion. Trust me. About the internal about the auditor's report, how you draft the report, whether it's a key audit matter or not, a lot of things are there. That all depends upon the evaluation of the misstatement, how you have evaluated the misstatement you have identified, what testing procedures you have performed, from where you gather that misstatement. A lot of things are there into picture. So it's not only the when I talk about the IT, it's not only the risk assessment phase, it's the each and every phase where I need to think about IT. Clear? Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay, so If no further doubts, then we can proceed. But just to tell you that this particular thing, this has been asked in past also. I think it was November 20, November 20, in which it was asked. Okay, again, for this was asked in November 20 for 4 marks. That at which phases of the audit you need to consider the IT environment. Okay. Now, before I go into further one more topic, I just want to have a discussion on the control side. Okay, the control side of the IT. So I want to discuss more about the types of the control that are there. Okay. The types of the IT, general IT controls, IT dependent controls, application controls, which are there. I just want to discuss something more about that. So, IT controls. Now, when I talk about IT controls, okay, so there are various type of IT controls which are there. You can say the IT controls are at each and every phase. As I said you that we understand the IT at each and every phase. So accordingly, there are IT controls at each and every phase. Okay, and one such phase is that, like, it can be at the top level, it can be at the bottom level, any of the layer. So usually the IT controls are divided into 3 categories: general IT controls, application controls, and the third one is IT dependent controls. Okay. Now, when I talk about general IT controls are policies, procedures that are related to many IT applications. They actually, their role is to support the effective functioning of my IT application. Okay. Let's say, for example, a general IT policy applicable to whole of the operating system, data center, access security, program change guidelines. So these are general IT controls, which are helps us to, what I can say is, to have a effective functioning of the application. So they do not directly impact the applications, but they help in effective working of we can say general applications. So for an example, when I talk about general IT controls, it's something like you can say the policies and procedures. Okay, policies and procedures that impact or helps or supports functioning of applications. Let's say, for example, I'll go to the layer system first. Now, let's say if I have something over here, a IT control over here. This will be general IT control, because whatever business applications will be running on this operating systems, this general IT control will help to them. For example, if I give you an example is change access to operating system. Okay. Now change access to the operating system means that, okay, only specified people can change the operating system settings. None other can change. Now this is an IT control basically, because it's helps us to restrict the unauthorized changes to an operating system. Now how this impacts the business application? If a particular business application is running on a server, let's say for example, hypothetical and easy example, a particular game running on your PC. Now if you change some of the settings, hypothetical example, display settings, if you reduce your display settings, the game might not work. If you reduce your display resolution, the game might not work. So your operating systems in a way helps the business application to run appropriately. Okay. Now if someone changes an operating system, it will definitely affect your business application. So IT control around the operating system will not only what you can say, help the operating system, but it also supports the business application. So in the same way, general IT controls are the policies and the procedures that support the functioning of an application, a particular application. Okay. It's an overall management of the computer, or you can say performance monitoring. There are many things. There are many program change related, access security related, a lot of things are there. Now I talk about the second is the application controls. Basically, the application controls, okay. Now application controls include both automated and manual. It will include both automated and manual. Now when I talk about application controls, they operate at the business process level. Let's say for example, invoice processing tool. So if there is a control in this particular tool that, okay, whatever data is coming from scanning system, that only will be taken for processing. No manual data insertion is allowed. Okay. Or you can say there is another control is a person verifies these scannings, or you can say number of processings done each day. Or there is another control, let's say for example, a person authorizes the batch of processing to be posted in ERP. So a person will authorize this particular batch of posting so that it can go into ERP and get posted. Or there is a control around this particular application that only the input is from the output of scanning tool. There is no manual intervention, manual data insertion. Okay, something like that. There is a one, these controls are there. In that case, these are the application controls. They can be automated, they can be manual, person driven, system driven, a lot. So application controls are preventive and detective in nature. So see, these particular control, okay, is preventive. This particular control is preventive, but this particular control is detective. Now, what is this control? A person verifies number of processing done each day. So usually, let's say this tool processes 1,000 invoices. So let's say, for example, someday a person identifies that who is reviewing that only 100 invoices are processed. He will go, he will check, he will identify why there was less number of invoices and everything. So that's in detective nature. These are preventive in nature. Okay. So it can be preventive or detective, the control. So they can be preventive in nature or detective in nature. That is fine. Okay. Application controls usually relate to the procedures used to initiate, record, process, report the transactions and other financial data. Okay. They are basically, either related to the input, output, inside processing. They can be related to any of the three, but they are related to that particular application. Okay. Now, automated controls are within, the application. They are within embedded into the application. For example, an automated control in this case can be, okay, if the scanning tool has done duplicate scanning, automated invoice processing tool will identify, okay, this is the duplicate entry and he will remove it. That's an automated. Okay. So it can be both automated and manual. Or you can say in a particular ERP, when you enter debit credit, the debit should match to the total of credit. That's an automatic check. Okay. So the control can be automated within system and within that particular application. That is application control. Now the third part, very important, is the IT dependent controls. IT dependent controls are manual controls, but they need IT data. They need IT data or information, okay, or report. They need IT data, information, or report to operate that particular control. Although the control is performed manually by a person, but it is dependent upon the IT. Good example, if I give you, bad days reserve calculation. Okay. Now, let's say this is an IT dependent control, means a person manually checks the required reserve of bad debt based on data saging. Now the point is, this data saging is an IT generated report from system. Although this control is manual, that the person performs manual calculation of the bad debt reserve, but again, he is relying upon a report which is generated by the IT system. That's a data ranging report, without which he cannot perform the control. So the effectiveness of such controls depends upon the data that is generated from the IT system. Now, when I say IT system, means they require that the IT system should be working appropriately. Clear? Any doubt till now? Any doubts? Okay. Earlier, so first point with respect to the late access. This one, late access termination. Let's say, for example, employee left the organization on 31st March 2022, but I terminated his accesses to the system, let's say on 30th June, after 3 months. So that the late access termination, I'm terminating the access late compared to the person when he left the organization, means anyone can use his login ID and password once he's gone and can post entries and can do anything. It's a big risk, basically. Any doubts? Very important to understand the controls that are, general IT controls, application control, and IT dependence. Now, why? Reason because the same was also part of the exams. So there was a question that Messrs. RST and Associates have been appointed as an auditor of ADI Limited for the financial year 21-22. The processes, operations, accounting decisions are carried out by using computers in ADI Limited. Messrs. RT and Associate understands that there are several aspects that they should consider to determine the level of automation and complexity in the business environment of ADI Limited. While planning the audit work, the engagement partners discuss with the audit staff about the various types of controls in the automated environment that are put into place to mitigate the IT risk and maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability security of such general IT controls, application controls, and IT dependent controls. You are required to briefly explain general IT, application, and IT dependent controls. So let us see the answer. So the controls that are put into place to mitigate the IT risk, to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and security of the data are general IT controls, application controls, and IT dependence. So general IT controls. General IT controls are policies and procedures that relate to many applications and support effective functioning of application control. They apply to mainframe, miniframe, and end user environment. General IT controls that maintain the integrity of the information and security of the data commonly include control over the following: data center, network operations, system software acquisitions, change and maintenance, program change, access security, application system acquisition, development and maintenance of business application. These IT controls generally implement to mitigate the IT specific risk and applied commonly across multiple IT systems, applications, and business processes. Hence, general IT controls are known as the pervasive controls over or the indirect controls. Okay. Then let us see application controls. Application controls include both automated or manual controls that operate at a business process level. Application controls can be preventive as well as detective in nature and are designed to ensure the integrity of the accounting records. Application control relates to the procedure used to initiate, record, process, and report. That is the input, processing, and output. Transactions or other financial data. These controls helps ensure that the transaction occurred are authorized and are completely and accurately recorded and processed. Automated application controls are embedded into IT applications. That's the ERP, or you can say, which helps into ensuring the completeness, accuracy, integrity of the data of those systems. Again, example is automated application, including edit checks, validation of input data, sequence number check, limit check, format check or range check, reasonable check, mandatory data fields checking, or something like that. The third part is IT dependent controls. Again, the IT dependent controls are controls basically, are manual controls that make use of some data or information or report produced by the IT system, like bad debt reserve calculation. And in this case, even though the control is performed manually, the design and effectiveness of such control dependent upon the source of data staging report. Due to inherent limit dependency on the information technology, the effectiveness and reliability of the automated application controls and IT dependent controls require general IT controls to be effective. So this was about the IT dependent application and general IT controls. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay, if no further doubt, what I can suggest is we can take a quick 10-minute break and we'll gather back. Okay, let's take a quick 10-minute break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Uh, so we discussed till now automated environment, components of automated environment, real-time environment, at which phase you need to consider the IT environment. Okay. Then we talked about the IT controls, types of IT control, basically. Now, the second area, the subsequent area that I want to discuss, and very, very important one, okay, is uh, the enterprise risk management. Okay, enterprise risk management is something very important and very critical to understand. So what is the enterprise risk management? As its name suggests, okay, like it's from its name, as it appearing from its name, enterprise risk management is talking about understanding the risk, okay, which are faced by an enterprise, and how the enterprise is managing that particular risk. So enterprise risk management is something you can say that how the enterprise is managing various type of risk, not only one but the various type of risk, which may include your market risk, which may include your technology risk, regulator risk, uh, different kind of risk. So see, for any risk management, what you need to do is first you need to identify the risk. Okay, what is the risk applicable to that particular entity? So when I talk about an entity, enterprise risk management, in risk management, you identify the risk and you manage the risk. But for that, you need to identify the risk. Now, to identify the risk, you need to understand what can be the type of risk. Let's say, for example, change in technology. Okay, change in technology can be there. Just a minute. Change in technology can be there, one of the risk. Second can be, let's say, new regulatory requirement. Okay, new regulatory requirement can be there. Now, these changes, let's say, for example, change in customer preference. Okay, now these changes can be of, of any nature. As I told you, this regulatory requirement, this particular change can be of any nature. Not necessary that's only of regulatory related, but can be anything. Okay. Now these changes in technology, changes in regulatory, changes in customer preference, these are such kind of changes which can, based on external factors, not internal factors. Now, if these changes, these different kind of changes are there, then we need to understand for that type of changes, first of all. Give me a minute. I think there is some problem at my hand. So I'll provide the examples of type of changes over here. Now, type of changes or type of risk, basically, they depend upon the external factors, which may include your market risk, okay. Then it may be regulatory risk, then it may be technology risk, then it may be financial reporting risk, then it may be operational risk, then it can be credit risk, then it can be business partner risk, no, various type of risk can be there. Various type of risk can be various. That depends again upon the external factor that we are looking over here. There is not only one type of risk, there are multiple type of risk based on the change factor. Basically, whatever change factor is there, based on that there will be a risk. Okay. Now, when I talk about risk management, so as I told you, in risk management, what you need to do is first you need to understand. Okay. First, you need to understand what risk is. Then only what you can do is you can manage it. Then only you can identify it. So till the time you do not understand what is the risk, you cannot do anything. Okay. You cannot manage the risk till the time you do not identify what is the risk. And accordingly, it's very important to identify the risk for managing the risk. So the risk management includes sorry, there is some issue at my end. Again, this is a technology risk. Okay, so risk management is identification of risk, assessing the impact of the risk, addressing and mitigating the risk, and reporting the risk. So these are the few things which are there in a risk management. Now, when I talk about identification, we saw, okay, what type of identification or type of risk we need to understand. When I talk about assessing the risk, okay, I need to understand which are the qualitative factors, quantitative factors, key performance indicators, okay, risk indicators to assess the risk. For example, when I identify a risk, my prime thing is I need to understand which are my business goals, first of all. So business goals are something very important to understand the risk. Okay. So first I'll understand what is my business goals and objectives. And accordingly, what I will do is I'll identify the events that will impact the achievement of my business goals. Okay. Then the second is that once I'll identify the events that impact the achievement of my business goal, what I'll do is something that for those all events, I will understand what are the qualitative factors of those events, quantitative factors. Let's say, for example, If that events happen, what could be the impact, overall impact on my business? Okay, let's say for example, fire. If my factory, goes into the fire, if my factory is destroyed in the fire, how much impact it will carry onto me. For example, let's say I have only one factory and it goes into the fire, my going concern is gone. Okay, let's say I have multiple factories and one such factory where the total production is only of 5% of the total production. Still, there will be loss, but not that subsequent that it will impact the going concern. In that way, I need to assess and check the impact of the risk. What can be the impact of the risk on my business? That's the risk assessment. Then I need to address the risk. How will I address the risk? First of all, I score that risk, how critical it is to address. Like fire, how critical it is, critical it is to address the fire related things. I say, okay, very critical, very critical. Then I will score the risk. I will bring the data into the picture. Okay, how many fire incidents has happened in such kind of factories, when factories with related to the, let's say for example, crackers, firecrackers. Okay, I have a factory of firecrackers. How many fire incidents have happened? Very much. Whether I'm dealing in some products which are inflammable, yes. So I will bring the data, I'll score the risk, I'll scale, I'll present it. Okay, whether this is high, medium, low, I'll prioritize the risk. Okay, whether this is high priority to be addressed or low priority, and accordingly I will prepare a plan to mitigate that particular risk. Once I will prepare that plan to mitigate the risk, and accordingly I'll report the risk that is there. That's the enterprise risk management. Risk management basically for an enterprise. Okay, it's not something one-time activity, but there is a continuous activity that is carried out. What you can say, to understand the risk, to identify and assess the impact, to address the risk, and to report the risk basically. Now, that is something from the risk management point of sight that we discussed. I want to understand where you have seen this particular term with respect to the reporting. We have also discussed, we have also discussed risk management in past. Okay, where you have seen this term, where we have discussed this. Where we have discussed this in past. Where we have discussed the risk management in past, in which topic? Come on guys, pretty easy. Pretty easy, seriously. Not quite. Risk appetite, no. There was another topic where we discussed about the risk management. There was two topic, in fact. Not today, in some of the previous lectures. In some of the previous lectures, there were few topics where we discussed this. Okay. So remember when we were discussing about audit committee, we talked about risk management committee under regulation 21. The role of risk management committee is to perform enterprise risk management. Same where in the Companies Act also, if I have the disclosure available, I'll show you. I think I do have the. Let me check. If I do have the disclosure, I can show you also the risk management, enterprise risk management disclosure. It's not a standalone thing. That's why I'm saying you, it's not a one standalone thing. It is there, it is present, and it's not a new topic, but it's the same thing that we are discussing, managing the risk. The way it is financial risk management, it is on the same line, it's also enterprise risk management. Here they are talking about the financial risk management. I think I don't have that that one. I'll show you. In usually, annual reports also of different companies, you can identify, the about enterprise risk management, how they are dealing with the enterprise risk management, how things are done. Okay, in case of enterprise risk management, and a lot of things are they're provided in detail. Okay, and it's very important to understand what is this particular thing. If you talk about the risk management, I identify the risk, I assess the risk, and accordingly I report the risk. Okay, when I talk about reporting the risk, it's not only reporting at one particular place. Reporting can be any form. Okay, it can be in my annual report, it can be to the organization, it can be to the various stakeholders, but that is there. Reporting is there. Okay, so accordingly, enterprise risk management is risk management only with respect to the whole enterprise. Clear? If I show you something, I have, let me show you something with respect to the risk management. This is one of the annual report I have for a particular company. See, this is with respect to the risk management. They have the risk management details. Okay, overview, what is the risk management, what it talks about, then they talk about the enterprise risk management framework. Okay, which is integrate the risk management as a part of decision making, integrate risk management processes with the other assurance functions, formulate a resilient and robust methodology to manage and mitigate the risk, identify, assess, prioritize, treat, monitor, report the business risk, continuously improve our risk management process. This is something, they are talking about the framework. Then they talk about the risk management process. First, it is risk identification. It says that the entity conducts a risk identification exercise in linkage with the strategic business plan, emerging risk due to evolving landscapes. Okay, then it is talked about, you can say, sorry. Then risk assessment, second step, it talks about, identifying the exposure of a particular risk, potential impact, likelihood of occurrence, standard risk assessment. Then they are talking about risk prioritization using risk rating, risk score, scoring a particular risk. Then they create a response to the risk. Okay, what could be the response? That once we have identified the risk, Either we will treat the risk. When I talk about treating the risk means, let's say fire risk, risk of fire. Either I will, install fire security, fire sprinklers, fire extinguishers or something like that, or I will do a risk tolerance. Okay, big factories should have fire security, small factories fine. Or it can say risk termination. Okay, risk termination means don't perform that particular activity which is generating a risk, that particular risk. We are terminating the risk, stopping it from generating it because we are stopping the particular activity. Okay, so treatment, transfer, tolerance, or termination. There are various ways, okay, available, but that can be a response to the risk. And then risk monitoring and reporting. And they have this something, risk governance team also. So how the risk governance team is there, global risk management committee, central risk management committees. So they have different committees. Again, that's the risk management committee. We saw regulation in SEBI LODR. Okay, same that there are provisions in the company set, some company set also, but this is how the risk management looks like. Absolutely. Enterprise risk management is much wider than financial risk management. Financial risk can be a part of enterprise risk. You can say it's a subset. Financial risk management is a subset of enterprise risk management. Insurance, yes. Insurance can be also one of the ways to treating the fire risk perfectly. Benchmarking means I'll benchmark a particular risk, how critical it is to address. Okay, risk appetite. Risk appetite depends upon how much risk you are willing to take. Today it's a risk of fire. Tomorrow it can be any other risk. Risk of change in technology. Let's say most of your plant is technology driven. How much is your risk appetite with respect to how much risk you can take? Okay, the risk is technology can change. Now, if technology can change in technology is the risk. Whether I'm ready to accept that risk, okay, let the technology be changed, or you want to treat that risk. No, if there is a change in technology, first it should be implemented in my plant. So that's the risk appetite, that how much you are willing to accept the risk or how much quickly you want to treat the risk. Any doubt? Any doubts? So this is something about the enterprise risk management, very important to understand. Now, the question arises, is enterprise risk management means having internal controls or internal control framework or something else? So if I talk about internal controls, do you think enterprise risk management is only means to have internal controls in place? What do you think? When I talk about risk management, do you think that having internal control framework is sufficient to be called as an enterprise risk management? Very good question, Abhilash. I'll come to that. Correct. So enterprise risk management has a various parts, and one of such part is internal control framework. It's not that internal control framework is equivalent to the enterprise risk management, but enterprise risk management framework contains one of the part is the internal control framework. Now, very important, how IT or IT and internal control are related. Okay, and how IT and enterprise risk management is related. See, when I talk about automated environment, risk can be there from the automated environment also. And when I talk about risk assessment, risk management, you need to see how different type of risk are impacting your automated environment. That's the risk management. Okay, it's not only about the manual, it's about the automated environment also, because multiple risks can impact multiple type of things. And one such area is that how the risk is impacting your automated environment. Now, one of the question is how IT is related with internal controls. See, IT gives you the understanding of the automated environment, and through the help of automated environment, you get the understanding of the controls around the automated environment, which are known as the IT controls. And unless and until you do not have comfort on the IT controls, you cannot have comfort on the all of the controls. And if you do not have comfort on all the controls, how can you say your internal controls are working effectively? It's from start to end. Internal control is something my end, but start is my automated environment. I need to understand, I need to identify controls, I need to assess controls, and then I can reach to the larger conclusion of internal controls. Am I clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. Now, the next area I want to talk about, again, it's related to the controls only. Okay. Earlier, we discussed the three type of controls: general controls, application control, IT dependent control. When I talk about risk management, enterprise risk management, it's at the enterprise level. And that enterprise risk management, okay, can be your part of enterprise entity level risk and controls. Okay. Now, what are ELCs, entity level controls, or entity level risk and controls? I'll tell you. ELC, that is entity level control, okay, is control that operates across a company at all levels. This is operates across the company at all level, irrespective of being from top to bottom, from board to a particular person and employee. It operates at all level. Okay. They can be, they can operate at a higher level than the business activity, transaction, or as a business process. They can be at a top level, like business performance reviews, review of risk assessment activities, enterprise risk management. These can be a top level entity level control operating at the top level. Okay, but they operate at all the levels. It's not only about the top, but they operate at all the level from top to bottom. They are same. Okay, that's an entity level control. Now, these entity level controls can be, okay, can be part of of the overall organization through policies and procedures, but they are definitely part of your internal control framework. So when I talk about internal control, they are part of it. So ELCs are part of your internal controls. Okay, part of the internal controls, and they are very subjective in nature. For example, okay, if I give you an example of entity level control, it's monthly gross margin review. Okay, monthly gross margin review is something an entity level control. On a monthly basis, the, let's say this is performed by a CFO. They review, okay, what is the gross margin? Let's say last month it's what, 6%. Current it is 5% gross margin. Though they will understand why there is a decrease in 1%. Okay, they will ask the reason. They will go deep which product is, not generating gross margins, where is the cost high. So from top to bottom, it will go to everything. It starts at the top level. They are very subjective analysis of the gross margin, but again, they are the entity level, performed at the top level, but they impact all the levels. Okay, now there can be a direct ELC or indirect ELC. Entity level control can be direct, they can be indirect. If I talk about, this was the example of direct. When I talk about indirect can be, let's say, for example, company code of conduct, policies, HR policies, procedures. They can be indirect entity level control. Means there is a policy that you are not required, or you cannot, share the inside information without the approval. So you cannot breach the confidentiality. Now that's an entity level control. Okay, so there is a policy which stops you to share the company information outside organization. There is a policy that stops you to share the company information outside your organization. That's an entity level control, because it's applicable to all, to each and every employee. It is applicable to each and every employee, and this is applicable through a policy. It's an indirect ELC. So when I talk about ELCs, okay, we need to understand from the point of view of ERP. What are the ELCs applicable to a particular ERP and the automated environment? Okay, how the components of ELC, enterprise level controls, okay, impact or relevant from the information and communication point of view. Or you can say, when I want to understand the information and communication component of a particular, organization or a particular automated environment, what I need to do is I need to understand how business operates, how relevant information is flowed through the system. Okay, risk and controls around those information, reliability of general information generated from system. I need to consider all these areas. For example, so there was an, let's say, if I talk about ERP environment, okay, now I'm talking about internal control components. Do you know which are the components of internal control? Anyone? Components of internal control? When I talk about components of internal control, which are the components of internal control? Come on, guys, pretty easy. Correct, Abhilash?
Can you name them? I'll tell you. You might have seen this image before also. How many of you have seen this image? 5 components of control environment. Oh, internal controls. Control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information communication, and monitoring. Okay. And they operate at a different level. That's the entity level. Okay. Division, operating unit, function, or process. So they operate at a different levels. Okay. Then I talk about various different type of things which are there. They are operational things, reporting things, compliance things, and that is, you can say somewhere a COSO framework or something like that. COSO framework. Okay. From where it is coming. So these are the 5 components of my control environment. Now, let's say if I talk about one of the components of the control environment, let's say information and communication, that is how information is flowing throughout the organization. Okay. How information is flowing, and what are the checks and balances behind the information. So if I talk about one of the component, that I need to check the component, how it is embedded into the automated environment. So this control environment that I was talking about here, internal control environment, I need to understand from the automated environment's perspective. And when I talk about automated environment, I need to consider for each and every control, which includes ELC. So why I'm talking about this is why we need to evaluate the ELC, not on the why. When I talk about evaluating the ELC, I want to evaluate on these 5 components. Okay. So if I say that my particular ELC entity level control is working good, okay, then it should be working good on these 5 components. Okay. Now, if my ELC is working good, then I can reduce my testing onto respective different areas where it is impacting. Let's say, for example, this gross margin. If there is a monthly gross margin review and entity level control, then this is working fine, if this is effective, then I can avoid doing data analytics around gross margin, because someone is already checking it. There is a control around it. So if there is a fall in gross margin, the details are checked by the CFO, appropriate actions are taken. I'm good with this control. So that's why this will reduce my work at the testing level. And hence I need to understand what is the ELC, how it is impacting my overall automated environment, how it is related to the areas that I'm going to test. Okay. And how it can help me to reduce my, you can say audit testing, and how I can rely much on the ELCs. Okay. So there are questions. Let me take it and explain. Okay. So your question, okay, there is a question that there are chances that in internal control, one component of control environment is also there. But if there is any variance, then there will be high chances of variation. Then how we can manage it? See, now this is the particular example, gross margin review. There are chances that there will be high variance in the gross margin. Now, by understanding that how it is being tested, or how it is being performed, basically not tested, how it is being performed. Okay, let's say for example, 1% reason. What is the reason of 1%? How deeper they are going? Okay, what are the things they are checking? What are the steps they are taking? whom it is communicated throughout the organization, that okay, there is a 1% increase, we need to reduce it from the next month by looking into these things. Or let's say from for example, indirect ILC. Okay, do not share your confidential information. To whom it is communicated, how it is communicated throughout the organization, how people are made aware that they are not required to share confidential information outside the organization. Okay, so there are various things that you need to understand about an ELC before deciding that is good or not, whether that is effective or not. And once you decide it's an effective, it will help you in understanding the overall control environment. Any doubt? So where we report, I think you are, so there is a question where to report the entity risk management, enterprise risk management. Okay. So enterprise risk management usually are, as I showed you this is a part of your, this is a part of your annual report. So in annual report, it is discuss how the entity is managing the enterprise risk management. But over and above that, it's not only for the annual report, it's for the entity. How entity is managing the risk. Internal auditors, external auditors then take this information, incorporate into their planning, and accordingly they perform and decide how much testing they need to perform. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Please feel free to ask the doubt, irrespective of how silly it can be, doesn't matter. If you want to understand something again, please feel free to ask. Are you good, Abhilash? Are your doubts resolved? Yeah, that image was from POSO. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Okay. Why I'm explaining the entity level control or components of internal control? Reason because to understand, like in start we were talking about understanding the automated environment. Okay, we were talking about understanding the different layers. If there is a control around this particular environment, you need to also understand that control at the different layers. So control has also some components. Like the way environment has its component, control is also having components. And if control is also having components, you need to understand the control at their component level. So that's why the understanding the type of controls and understanding the components of the control is very important. Usually 5 to 10 marks questions we have seen in past from this particular chapter. And this particular question that I'm talking about, ELC, is being there asked in the past also. So in past also there was a question on ELC, explanation for the ELC. So these are certain topics on which in past there has been questions. Clear? Okay. Now the next thing I want to discuss is process level controls, process level risk and controls. the way we were talking about entity level, a step below is the process level, which are limited to a particular process. Okay. Pretty simple. Nothing difficult here. We talked about ELC. Now there's a time for process level controls. Sorry. Okay. Now process level controls are some controls which operate at the process level. For example, before posting of an invoice, before posting of an invoice, okay, three-way match is done. Three-way match is performed. Now, what is three-way match? PO versus goods receipt note versus invoice. Okay, so the quantity from PO is matched with the quantity of invoice and quantity of goods received. Same way, the price which was there in the PO is matched with the price in the invoice. Usually GRN doesn't have a price, so that's why. So a three-way match is done. If all the things are matching, then only an invoice is posted into the system. That's in process level control, applicable to a particular process. Another example. Before generating a PO, now people who are not aware with the PO, it's purchase order, or GRN is a goods received note. So before generating a PO, appropriate approvals are required to be taken. Okay, I cannot, just direct generate a PO and give to the supplier, okay, send me the goods. No, I need to, have the approvals. Okay, I want to have these goods. So someone will ask me, why you want to have these goods? Why you want to have this raw material? I can show the requirement. Okay, this on this particular project, on this particular, I want to manufacture this particular item. That's why I want to have goods. They will see, okay, good, you can have these goods. But they will ask from where you want to purchase. I'll say from this vendor at this price. They may ask, okay, how the price is you have decided, like, have you obtained 3 quotations, or have you obtained discuss the price, is this the best price available in the market? A lot of things are there. Once I'll get the approval, I'll raise a PO, I'll give to the vendor and ask vendor, please supply me the goods. Okay, so before generating a PO, I need to have the approvals and review in the place, then I can generate a PO. It's a process level control. So we saw one side entity level control, on the other side we saw process level control. Clear? Okay. Now, some of you want to understand risk management approach. Okay, I'll go to the risk management. Risk management, it's simple, divided in 4 steps. That's it. First, you identify the risk. Second, you assess the risk, how critical it is. Third, you address the risk. Okay, when I talk about addressing the risk, you mitigate the risk. Fourth is reporting. Okay, that how the risk management is being performed or which risk you identified. So these are the 4 steps which are there for the risk management. There's nothing outside this. Identify which kind of risk can impact you. For example, you are an automated factory. The biggest risk can be cybersecurity. What if your systems are, attacked by a virus, or you can say there's a ransomware virus or malware in your system? There's a security breach, hacking, can be anything. You identify a risk. You assess, okay, if my factory is totally automated, cybersecurity is a very key thing for me to identify how much critical it is. Addressing, you will install firewall, antivirus, a lot of things. Okay, a lot of systems you will bring into the picture to address the risk based on the priority. Once you will decide the priority, you will decide, okay, how you need to address the risk. And then you will report out, okay, we have addressed the risk or we have not addressed the risk, we have accepted the risk or whatever it is. Classic examples, taking same. You are manufacturing, let's say, for example, firecrackers. 99% of your activities are manual. There is nothing automated. There is nothing IT involved. Do you think a cybersecurity risk is so critical for you? I am manufacturing firecrackers manually. Workers are preparing firecrackers in my factory. Except for the switches to turn on the light and turn off the light, there is nothing IT related in my factory. Will the cybersecurity be a good risk for me or risk that I need to address? No, there is no need to have a cybersecurity thing for me because it's totally manual. Everything is manual. Unless and until you want a cybersecurity for turning off the light switch. But having said that, like, I need to understand what is the risk, how it is impacting. For one kind of entity, it could be a higher. For another kind of entity, it could be no risk. Same scenario. So that's the risk management. Very important question. Is this done by the auditor? Answer is no. Risk management is the responsibility of the enterprise management. It's the management who will perform this risk management. It's not the auditor. Auditor performs their risk management, but from the viewpoint of audit. And while he will perform the risk management for viewpoint of audit, he will take his comfort. He will understand how the entity is managing the risk. SA 315, understand the entity, how the entity is managing the risk. You will understand that. You will see entities risk management, and then on the basis of that, you will perform your own risk management. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubts, there is one of the question I want to take, which is on data analytics. Okay. Let us see that question. You came to know that the data should be stored, processed. This data can be useful for preparation of management information system reports and electronic dashboard that gives a high level snapshot of the business performance. In view of the above, you are required to briefly discuss the meaning of data analytics. Example, circumstances when the auditing in an automated environment, auditors can apply the concept of data analytics. Now, if I tell you about the data analytics, I'll come to the answer of that question also. Before that, if I want to explain data analytics, okay. In simple terms, What is data analytics? Data analytics, nothing but you take the raw data. Okay. You take the raw data, you process that raw data. Once you process that raw data, then what happens is you get some useful information. So if you take the raw data, you process the raw data, you get some useful information, and that useful information and the whole process is known as the data analytics. Okay. If I reshape the data, if I reformat the data, okay, if I perform some additional procedures over the data to take out some analytics, that's the basically data analytics. Now how can I do a data analytics in an automated environment? I need to do a data analytics in automated environment through the use of computer assisted and auditing techniques. So there are software systems which help in performing data analytics in automated environment basically. And these softwares or systems are very important, because they help you to gather the data from the automated environment. See, let's say for example, there's an automated factory, okay, manufacturing XYZ items, let's say mobiles or microprocessors. Now the number of microprocessor manufactured, the time taken to process manufacture a microprocessor, or a product. Now whatever time taken or whatever parameters are there, it's an automated factory, no manual intervention. With the help of computer assisted and auditing techniques, you can gather the data from the system automated environment. Okay, you can perform the data analytics, and then you can generate an useful information, that's an output, and it is done by auditor also. Okay, so that is the when auditor does it, auditor performs the data analytics. It is known as computer assisted auditing techniques. Now there are steps in data analytics, or you can say for performing computer audited auditing techniques, there are certain steps. It's not like that you can take you can just directly perform the analysis. No, there are certain steps required. There are certain things that we are required to take care of before performing this. Okay, so when I talk about the steps that are required to be performed, that includes my first of all understanding the business and IT environment. I need to understand the business and IT environment. Then I need to identify or define an objective or criteria why I want to perform analytics. What is the objective? Do I want to see the number of units produced? Do I want to see how much gross margin has been obtained? What I need to do? It's very important. What is my objective? Then I need to identify source and format of data. Which data I'm going to take? What is the source? Okay, from where I'm going to take the data? ERP, business tool, whole the database, from where I'm going to take the data. What is the format of data? In which format? Just in I give you example. Let's say for example, in Excel even there are multiple formats. Okay, CSV file, XLS file, macro enabled file. Okay, either it can be Excel file, it can be database file. Okay, it can be a Word file. Format, what is the format of data I'm talking about here? Even in Excel, you have multiple columns. What is the format within the Excel itself? Okay. Then extract of the data. How we can extract the data from the system? We need to then verify the completeness and accuracy of that particular data. That whatever data we are extracting from the system is complete and accurate. Let's say, for example, there are 10 line items in the system, and while extracting, if you only get 8, then that's an issue, because this will not give you a correct picture when you will perform the analysis. Okay. So you need to understand uh, whether the particular data that you are extracting from the system is complete and accurate. Okay, then you need to apply the criteria on the data that you have obtained. When I talk about the criteria, means the criteria that you define over here, objective and the criteria, that okay, you want to see customers with the limit of credit limit of more than 5 CR. That is something the criteria. Okay, now you will apply that criteria. Okay, which are the customers with excess of more than 5 CR credit limit. Okay, if I identify that particular thing, okay, then I will obtain a customer master list from the ERP first. I'll apply the criteria and I'll get the details then. Okay, which are the customer for more than 5 CR. I'll validate the result and confirm the result. Means once I will validate that okay, there are 10 customers more than 5 CR who has a credit limit of more than 5 CR. Then what I'll do is I'll confirm the result. Okay, in the system, whether that is so, or in actual, based on the underlying data, is this the same? And I'll report the document. I'll report and document the conclusions which I have obtained. This is how I need to perform the steps of computer assisted in audit techniques. Now let's go back to our question. So this talks about that, okay, generating and preparing meaningful information from raw system data using processing tools and techniques is known as data analytics. Data analytics method used in audit are known as computer assisted auditing techniques. When auditing in an automated environment, auditors can apply the concept of data analytics for several aspects of auditing, including this: preliminary analytics, risk assessment, control testing, non-standard general analysis, evaluation of deficiencies, and fraud risk assessment. So you can apply data analytics for these many areas. Clear? There is another question with respect to the data analytics, okay, which talks about suggest the approach of the data analytics and benefits from the use of CAD. Okay, so approach is the same that we discussed, is understanding the business environment including IT, defining the objective and criteria, identifying the source and the format of data, extracting the data, verifying completeness and accuracy of the extracted data, applying criteria on the data obtained, validating and confirming the results, and reporting and documenting the results and conclusions. So the data analytics we discussed, like steps for computer assisted in auditing techniques, and what are data analytics. Again, they have been asked in past exam. Any doubt with respect to the data analytics and CAD? Any doubt of with respect to any of the topic of today? Any doubt, guys? Okay. See, the critical thing is, please, after this lecture, go read the material, revisit these topics. Trust me, you will get a good clarity and understanding, good clarity of whatever we have discussed. Okay. Shailendra, can you explain your question with respect to the whistleblower policy? If you're talking about entity level control, or with respect to the whistleblower policy, Yeah, that is correct. But if you can just explain furthermore. There is one question: discuss 5 components of internal control. See, that will be discussed when we'll be discussing in detail the SA 315 and 330. That is the appropriate topic for that particular time. Reason because understanding in detail the components of internal audit, assessing the operative effectiveness and design effectiveness is will be something that will be taking care while discussing the 315 and 330. Yes, yes, yeah. So whistleblower policy is a good example of entity level control. Again, so it's an operating as an entity level. Anyone can report things into the whistleblower. This is for a check if there is something going wrong. Yep, good example. Any other doubt, guys? Any other? Okay. Uh, just one request, please provide your feedback with respect to the lectures. It's very important for us to understand that how the lectures are going on and how you are liking it. Okay. If no further questions, then guys, I'll propose to close the lecture here. And please, keep revising these things, very important. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you, and do provide your feedback. And also just one more thing I want to highlight, that from the next lecture, there will be some pre-recorded lectures that will be there, recorded lectures, and we will be they will be available. They will be taken. They will be there for the from next lecture. What we will be doing is, after pre-recorded lectures on 6th of January, okay, we will take a doubt session where we will be discussing all the doubts of your of the sessions that will be there on the pre-recorded basis, because there are no amendments in those topics. They are the same that they were there. So that's why there will be pre-recorded lectures. And again, but having said that, we will be taking a doubt session on 6th of January, so that you can clear your doubt with something you have from those pre-recorded lectures. So please go through those pre-recorded lectures and prepare, and we'll meet on the 6th January then. Okay, guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you.